So what I wanted to tap into today was just drawing. We're going to be doing a series of exercises using these guys. You may have gone into one of the categories already where I have the blur drawing exercise. And this, we're going to go beyond that just a little bit, but I just really want to bring up points because drawing and squinting your eyes is essential. And the reason I blurred it is because I kind of want you to address this like you're blurring your eyes and you're just starting to see the shapes and understand what's going on with the characters. So some of the things that we really have to pay attention, I'm going to go through a bunch of different ideas here. So number one is the structure. Okay. So what I want you to think about in structure is start thinking about number one, from one point of a shoulder to another point of a shoulder. You're kind of like creating a barbell within your drawing. So I could imagine just a barbell or something, just going across something like that. Think about how that rotates with your character. So your character, the way they may be leaning, this represents their shoulders. And that's what I want you to think about. Number one, when you go from shoulder to shoulder, this is the structure is drawing through. This is something you guys have seen in my videos where I talk about all the time, just drawing all the way through. But you start to see, look what happens on this guy down here. Look how his shoulders are starting to get tilted there, and it starts to create a bend with that structure. Look how this guy's a little bit more straight. This guy's, his shoulders are a little bit more straight. So we can start to have a bend and an arc in our shoulders, or we can have the shoulders going just straight across. We can also take that barbell and bend it this way, and we can have shoulders going this way. Again, imagine you're drawing a character. Now I got shoulders going up that way. So the shoulders are telling as much of a story in your character designs as anything else. So don't neglect that, and try not to just make your shoulders always so stiff. This is where I'm always talking about avoiding the ladder. We don't want things just going so straight up and down within the design. Okay, so that's one thing I want you to pay attention to. The next thing I want you to pay attention to is look what's happening with these, and I'm simplifying this for you guys because guess what? We don't have to draw hands today. Woohoo! No hands, you know, because hands are tough. But I want you just to think about what's actually happening underneath the form. So what does the form tell us? What does the shape tell us? The shape tells us that look what's happening here as this is dropping down. Where does it start to bend? Where is the bend on every single one of these? The bend on every single one of these all through here, and you can see there's a different size in all of them. From this point is always at the elbow. That's where this is starting to drop down at the elbow. And look at the difference. And I'm just going to take from the shoulder point to the elbow point to where it gets hidden. And you can start to see how maybe this feels a little bit longer and this one feels shorter. This one feels longer, that feels shorter. But again, look at some of these sizes where this one almost just feels a little bit even through there. But pay attention. Look at the size relation. Look at the size difference here, where that's all starting to bend. That's helping increase an understanding of the character, because number one, it tells us how far back this guy's hands are going. This guy's hands are way back here, you know, as they're, again, I'm drawing through my shape of what's going on. But look at this guy's hands. This guy's hands, look how it just drops and floats through there. This guy's hands are hanging back down there behind him. And that's what I'm thinking about. So this is where you always want to draw through your shape. Understand what's going on behind the character, because when you have that understanding, it informs you at this basic level to make better decisions and choices. Okay, so that's where the drawing through is, making sure you're really just drawing through all your designs. The next thing that I want that we're going to look at is just really understanding just the structure again through here, but the drawing through. I want you to look and approach everyone's shape almost like an egg shape here. Look at this tilt of this body. Look at this body shape doing that compared to this one through here. So this body, and I'm going pretty much all the way down to the crotch. And I got this, so it's like this egg theory that I just sort of just think about. And I think about the direction of the form. I think, and that's what I'm looking at. And I know what direction the body's going in by two ways. Number one, I can see from the pit of his neck and I'm seeing this, I'm seeing his tie sort of wrap around through there. So I'm finding that line of action through there. But look what happens with this guy. This guy, his body is sinking inwards through there. And that's, so I'm starting to see that from the pit of the neck. I get to see that sort of flow in his body. And I'm also noticing that his tie is just dropping straight down, because gravity is pulling it down. Because I know gravity is pulling it down, because underneath his body, it looks like this. It's just getting sunken in. So that's what's happening. Imagine a side view of someone. If this guy's standing on the side and that's his body, and we got this guy doing this, what's going to happen is, not unless there's wind blowing and it's going to push the tie and make it wrap there, what that tie is going to do is just drop straight down and start to hang down. That's what's going on with this guy. It's resting and it's dropping down. But then you get a side profile of a guy who's just got a big stomach through here, and we got this guy's head. What's going to happen is that tie is now resting on top of that body, and now it's following the arc of that body. So these are things that you just really want to try to consider when you're looking at someone. Look at this guy here. This guy's stomach isn't coming out as much, but his tie is also shifted to the side, and so it's a little bit more straight and floating down. So those are things that I want to look at. Look how far this guy's tie is wrapping around that guy's body. Okay, so these are what we want to pay attention to when I'm talking about just the drawing through and the structure. The next thing I just want to cover is the tilts. Pay attention to the tilt of the body here too. Now, what I want to just say, it's not about the tilt of the body, it's about the tilt of the head. Look at these bodies. This body is going this way, and look at that direction of the head there. Look at the direction of this head compared to the direction of that, the way that that body is going. This one's just a little bit more subtle, but still it's following a different line of the tie. This head's tilted just a little bit back, is a little bit more stoic in his stance. So we have that. Look at this guy's head turning this way compared to his body going that way. And look at that guy's head going this way. And he's got almost like you almost feel on this guy's got a sunken chest in here. And then all of a sudden his stomach comes out through there and it starts to pop out. So those are the observations that we constantly have to make if we're trying to really give our characters character, as opposed to just making them look generic. We don't just want to have our guy just standing there. All right. And the last thing I want to cover before we move into the main exercise with all of these is just the wrapping of the head, okay, and of the hat. And what I want you guys to think about is drawing through your form. So imagine we got our head, no matter what the head is, what's going to happen is that egg shape, we're going to draw all the way through that shape. So here we have, imagine that's wrapping behind the skull right through there. Okay, and then what's going to happen is some of these guys, they have the rims of the hat are a lot wider. Some of them are a lot smaller. But what's happening is that's wrapping around. Then we got that rim of the hat, which is also wrapping all the way through the form. Again, imagine, let's get the head here. We got this guy's eyes and his nose and his mouth. Okay, so that's wrapping all the way through. And then this is sitting on the skull. So you don't just want to, let me just make a quick little point here. You don't just want to have the head and then draw this through here, have that sitting there, and then have that going just way out there or something. This is what I see a lot of times. People they're not thinking about what's actually happening with that hat. That wouldn't make sense. You know, unless the only way this would make sense is if that hat was that big and it was opening all the way to that end, and that hat was just huge. Imagine it just being on a little kid's head or something. So he's got that big old hat on his head. But otherwise, wherever you have the opening of the hat, wherever you have this, that top bowler part, whatever it is, or whatever shape the hat is through there, whatever it takes, that's resting on top of your skull. And then this is wrapping all the way through that shape. Again, that can come up through this way. That hat can float down, you know, this way on my head. You know, I'm drawing all the way through, and then it could do something like that. Again, there's all those different things, but again, make sure you're really drawing through your shape when we get to the starting to finalize our character just a little bit more. All right. So what we're going to do here, what I want you guys to do is we are going to create 3, 6, 9, 12 squares on your page. All right, so let's just start with that. So let's start with 12 squares. I'm just going to kind of follow this. This is on my screen, so I'm able just to kind of follow this, but I'm just going to draw one line, two lines, three lines, four lines, and five lines all the way to the bottom. All right, so we got a nice big square through there. Okay, and then I'm just going to break that up into thirds. All right, so I'm going to be drawing pretty small, and it's okay to draw small. Don't do, for this exercise. This is why I'm even showing it blurry before I show the real stuff, because I want you guys just to think blurry. I want you guys to think with squinty eyes. I want you guys just to think about your shapes that you're going to be playing with through here. All right. And now the next thing that we're going to do is start just blocking in the shapes of each character. And before you draw the heads, I just want you to pay attention to the bodies. So what I'm doing right here, and the thing that I want you to do is, again, this is going to be uncomfortable for a lot of you guys, especially if you haven't drawn this way or it's just new for you. But I want you to draw like you're a child. We've all been children. And I want you just to draw sloppy and messy. And I don't want you to pick up your hand, really. I just want you to find the shapes. So here I'm just drawing down. I'm drawing to that elbow. And I'm just trying to block in the shape of this outer body right now. Again, don't even worry about the head. Now, once I've done this, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just looking at this guy's head shape, and I'm just going to almost like create that cone shape. Don't worry about making it perfect. What we're doing is almost just creating this ice cream cone shape on top of that head. That's all I want you to think about right now as you go through each one. On this next one, I can see that, again, think about the barbell. I want you to think about the barbell on the top. So just look at this guy's shoulder where it's a lot lower on that side. I'm drawing through my shape, and that one goes a little bit higher. Drawing my elbow. Again, I'm thinking about my distances here as I'm drawing these before it starts to bend. I'm thinking about that. Again, so I'm just blocking in these shapes. Again, we're going to come back and add details after, because details lost, okay? And then this head, look at how this head is going in this direction. And if you want, draw that line of action in the head. You can just put a little arrow line of action in the head. Again, just draw the shape right now. We're going to change all this. This is all going to change and alter. I just want you just to try to find a little bit more feeling and a little bit more shape in there. All right. And at this point, as we're doing this, if you guys have any questions, now would be a good time just to ask any sort of questions that you may have. I might even make the head just feel a little bit longer and that hat just feeling just a little bit shorter up there. So now I'm using my golden section. If you guys have followed the golden section lessons, especially in the drawing head. So I'm just finding that. This guy, I'm looking at this guy's head's tilted nice and backwards, but again, I'm drawing all the way through my shape, is a little bit more stoic. His line of action of his body is bending just a little bit more. Again, you might even find yourself drawing a little bit of that egg shape in there too. So that's okay if you draw that egg shape through there. But I am just sort of playing around with those head tilts. You can almost see that the shoulders are almost quite even on both sides from where that shoulder is to that shoulder. Some of them a little bit different, like this guy's a little bit more of a front three-quarter view. So I see more of his shoulder on the left side than I do the right side. So you can consider that aspect. All right. And again, if anyone has any questions, feel free just to fire away. Don't be shy. Don't be blue. All right. So now again, you might even just think about that head just being straight a little bit more. And as you're working and you're drawing and you're building up on your characters, just always, my philosophy is always just try to find that feeling, try to find that gesture, try to find that egg shape, within there to give them personality, and try to find those tilts, because you get those tilts in there and that's just going to make your design that much better. Again, so and some of you guys are drawing faster than others, and that's okay. I don't want you to feel that any sort of pressure. Just have fun. This is you drawing. You're no one else. You don't have to be anyone else. You don't have to be as good as anyone else. You are in a place of learning, you're in a place of growing, you're in a place of just wanting to have fun and see what it is that you can come up with. All right. So that guy's shoulder's just a lot higher and his body is sort of leaning and it's coming out. So now I'm playing around. I'm really, even as I'm looking at this too, I'm squinting my eyes as I'm doing this too, because even though it's blurry, I'm still maybe seeing a different angle through my blur. I'm seeing a direction that head might start going, tilting that, going in that direction as the shoulders are going in a different direction. And again, your goal right now is you're not trying to trace, you're not trying to make this the exact same character, and your style, everyone's style is going to be different. You may be a designer who's working for video games and doing more Dungeons and Dragons sort of stuff, or more Call of Duty type of stuff where you have to just draw more human proportion and more realistic, and that's fine. It's all the same stuff. There's nothing any different about this. It's the exact same approach. It's just about observation and seeing. And I think that's the most important thing, because through observation is where you're really going to be able to make a lot more stuff up out of your imagination. And some of these guys, I mean, a lot of them are all the same weight. Some of them are a little bit skinnier, but you can absolutely, at the next phase afterwards, you can go and start changing all different sizes and having just a lot of different variation with your characters. That's okay. Again, there's no right or wrong here, other than do we have construction? Do we have drawing through? And that's what I'm just, again, really just trying to think about here. And it's really getting a nice workout. I find that I have been almost just not establishing the head, but I'm drawing a quick little circle for the head. And then I'm drawing the rest of my body in there. But I am paying attention just to that line of action, that direction it's going. Because now there's going to be a little tilt of look at even some of the guys. I'm looking at this guy down here. I love how his face is going straight, but look at that angle of his hat, right? So we don't have to make the hat the same angle as the face. That's going to start to add just a lot more character to our characters and give them just a lot more personality. And that's, again, what we're sort of truly aiming for, is just to find variety in our shapes, but also just find that personality and that feeling when we go and we go beyond this. And get used to the exercise. And I hope you guys are going and doing a lot of the exercises that I'm providing through the course, and you're able just to tackle them. And even if you can just work on one video a day, look at a 5-minute video just once a day, if that's all you're able to get to. I know you guys are busy and working other stuff, but I'm telling you, you're going to witness yourself just within a year, just be like, whoa, because I committed. And that's what it's all about, is just try to commit, make that commitment, put it in your calendar. Okay. So once you've gone through this phase, the next thing that I want you to do is start just looking at the tie direction. I just want you to think about, is that tie, what sort of flow is that? So this tie is wrapping around here. So now I'm getting that tie, and I'm just going to have it wrap around, and I'm starting just to look at that. And then I'm looking at the white space, the negative space. It looks like this guy's jacket is just falling straight down. His stomach is right there. I'm going to avoid my tangent by pulling that tie just a little bit further down. And even through here, I'm just going to see that little bit of white space up in the corner there. And then the white space, this becomes a shape. So look at these shapes, that negative space that's going on, because that affects design. So I'm paying attention to that. All right, this guy's tie is just dropping straight down, and it's a little bit thicker. So some guys' ties are going to be thicker. Some guys' ties are going to be thinner through there. But also keep in mind, and I just want to point out that what's happening is when you got the neck, again, this is all drawing through your shape. We're drawing through from our anchor points right there, our dumbbell. That jacket is wrapping around the neck and falling and just dropping down in the shape that it's dropping. So make sure you're just really making sure you're just dropping through. Imagine there's a scarf, wrap that scarf around the neck, let it drop. And even here, I'm finding that shape as it's sort of, this shape here is a little bit more curved. Look at the shape that's happening on this guy's other side is a little bit more straight. We don't have to make those symmetrical. So you always want to try to avoid the symmetry. Don't make things so symmetrical. It's going to stiffen up your designs. Do that again. I'm wrapping. I'm always starting. I'm wrapping around behind the neck, coming through. I take my left shape first because I'm right-handed, and I find that flow. And with that flow, again, I can have someone's, if I do something like this, if I have this guy right now, okay, right now, we don't know if this guy has a flat stomach, a large stomach, or, you know, whatever it is. But all of a sudden I do this and I just pull straight down. Well, that guy's got a pretty skinny frame, you know, to him through there. Okay, look what happens when all of a sudden I do this. Now I take that, I wrapped around the neck, but now I wrap it like that. Now look what's happening. Now I'm adding some form, and now all of a sudden this guy's got his belly hanging through there. All right, so that's the sort of difference and sort of things that we want to think about. And then even you could do this. What if we went the whole opposite side through here too, where we just do this, where all of a sudden it sort of like just kind of like comes in over here and then flows out that way, and then comes in and flows out that way. Now that person's got a sunken chest, and then their stomach is protruding. Look how just that, the river, it just flows. It's just, that's the good term for it, the river. See how your river flows. Is your river flowing straight, or is your river windy? What sort of river is flowing through your costumes when you're working on out your designs through there? All right, and then that's wrapping down through that. And again, don't make the river just even. Don't make it symmetrical on both sides. Look at this guy here. Uh-oh. What happened? Okay. Okay, so look what's happening with this guy here in the middle on that second row, how his jacket is going out this way. It's going like a V shape now, goes into that direction. So that offers something just a little bit different in our character. And look how just one side, look at that tie shape. Look how it goes down and then it wraps around like over his belly, just through there. And then I can take my river of my tie and just flow it in that direction. Okay, so just building up, and sometimes I just wanted to say just the pure study of sometimes not doing stuff that's so much fun is what stops people from truly growing, because they go, I don't want to practice anatomy today, or I don't want to drawing the muscles, or just drawing things like this. I just want to get straight to the color. I want to get straight to the finish. I want to get straight to the personality. And try not to be that way, really. Try to say, listen, I'm studying today, and that's what this is all about. It's not about that I have to do this and people are going to judge me and getting all nervous and scared about that. Again, just find this. And what's great about this exercise, this is what you're going to have to do in the real world anyway. And you guys who have worked with clients know, you got to provide variety. You got to show variety. You can't just offer at the end of a director or a client just one way of doing things, because they're going to be like, really, that's it? That's all you got for me? So they're hiring you for your ideas, right? Just as much. They want to see that. But as I'm starting to look at all of these as a whole, I'm starting just to really see just a lot of variation in my characters. Again, I haven't even given any personality to any of these, but what you're seeing is a feeling in the character. And that's, again, our real aim. Think about the ties. Maybe some of the ties you'll make thicker. Some of them you'll make thinner. All right. Again, any questions out there in the Zoom world?
I think there's a couple in the chat, Stephen, you might want to check.
Oh, if it's possible, just to do it without the chat, because then I have to go to the chat, and then it breaks up my sort of concentration just a bit. If you guys are okay with that, so if you do have a question, please just feel free just to unmute.
I want to ask one.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm just wondering, when it doesn't happen to you that you suddenly start to repeat yourself and variation is gone?
So with that, to me, it's just a matter of real practice in doing this. If you also go into the categories with the shapes and the prompts that I've created, one thing to do is always just look at vase shapes, because this is, again, just a really great way just to sort of like break up some of all your different shape variation. That way you're staying away from just making everything just so straight up and down. You can start to play with that variety. So the only way that I would suggest to start playing with that is just look at objects, look at different things. Like I'm just looking at, I'm even just looking at a shape right now of just my little, USB drive, my external USB drive, where it's just that shape, and then you got this thing sort of like floating out, but all of a sudden this can become a different sort of, character, through there. And, whatever this guy ends up, whatever this character ends up being, I don't know, but it just starts something and it just triggers your imagination. But I think as long as the variation happens in the shoulders. How long are my shoulders? How small are my shoulders? Because now maybe my shoulders go like that and take a shape like that into the rest of the body. Or maybe my shoulders start off big like that and start to get just a little bit thinner through there. And that's what you're always trying to maintain and look for, is that shape variation. And again, avoiding the ladder. And this is why, if you guys really, with a lot of the things too, just make sure that you're watching the videos and going through that, because I tap into a lot of this, like the SODs, the shape, order, distance, size. That's something you really want to play with too. All right. So now that we've done this, I do want to just mention another thing as I'm drawing through this. When you guys are going to draw the lapels on your shirt, on the jacket, what I want you to think about, again, this is all the drawing through stuff going on. So say we got the body here, we got the tie, okay? So the thing that I'm gonna do when I'm looking at the shape of the lapels here, it sort of comes down to a point right here, and then it just starts to turn in that point through there, and then it starts to take a real drastic sort of like drop. Again, they're all different sizes, but that's me drawing through. Now from here, I'm gonna cut into this. Now I cut into that shape and I do something like that, and then I can erase this, and now it's following the nice form, as opposed just to drawing something like this and then you have your other shape doing something weird or going out like that and it's not connected. I want to try to find that connection. Even if it's doing something like that, I can make it as extreme as that, but now I have a nice flow and a nice connection. And that's what you're always maintaining in your design. If you can maintain that flow, if you can maintain that arc and that energy, that's what's going to make your designs that much better too. So as I'm working on this and I want to start to add any of this, that's what I'm going to do. Okay. But okay, so now what I'm going to do, now that we've gone this far with this design, now what I'm going to do is show you the real character. All right. But as we look at the real character, this is where we have to, once again, we got to think about, that head shape. Okay, we've got to think about, we're going to start tightening up that hat as it's being drawn all the way through. We're going to try to find the shape of whatever that shape is. Then from here, what we're going to do is start playing with our shape, order, distance, size. So some of these guys, what I want you to think about is, as an old man, what kind of happens is, again, we can have fun with it. The sort of eyes getting a little bit closer, the nose getting a little bit longer. All of a sudden, that's starting to add a lot more age onto my character. Maybe that chin gets a little bit smaller. Maybe he doesn't even have that much of a neck. It just kind of flows into that, that whole shape through there. The ears get bigger because that's cartilage. And so we're playing with that. Again, that's just one way. Maybe the eyes are further apart. But that's what we're going to start blocking in right now, is start thinking about what's going on with the face. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this one through here. And now let's look at these guys. So now you can start to see a little bit more of them. So now what I'm going to do, now look at this drawing that I have up here on the top. Now I realize, okay, I got to spend just a little bit more time. I'm going to draw through that hat sort of overlapping through here. Now I'm just going to actually put little, I'm not worrying about details. Right now I'm just almost like drawing two dots. I'm going to draw like a U shape for my nose. My U shape could be long, it could be wide. Look at all these different variations I could have of that U shape as it comes down. So imagine just two little marbles in a string pulling down. That's all I want you to do right now, but change the angle of the mouth. Like even the mouth, I'm changing the angle just a bit. This guy, I'm going to move his eyes a little bit further apart. I might even make my U shape just a little bit longer. Change the angle of the mouth. Again, follow your little arcs through there. And now I'm going to start wrapping around that hat. So again, this isn't a race. Don't try it. We're just going through this. We're probably not even going to get to as far as you want to go, but I'm giving you guys the building blocks so that when you go, and for today, if you guys have time today, I'd love for you to start taking it to that next level afterwards. And then for sure, make sure you share it and post, because I would love to see everything everyone did. So now I'm just playing around with the faces right now. And again, I'm not copying these guys. I'm just making stuff up, but I do want to just start flushing out my hat. Look at the overall shape of the hat, and the same thing, that little V shape that sort of like cuts into the hat on the top. Like when we have that hat, it's a shape, and then you got that little V shape that sort of comes. Otherwise, that shape could be a little bit more rounded up there. You know, it could be go into a shape that looks like that. There's so much variety that can happen, and that's all you're doing is just changing those little ideas every time. Maybe the hat's getting a little taller. Right? Any other questions? Fire away, since I'm unable to kind of just look at the chat.
Hey, Steven.
Yay.
I don't have a question.
Yes.
I've been taking your class for about like 2-3 weeks, something like that, and it's been really helpful. I got some. I feel like I've been like getting a lot better.
Great.
Classes. So thank you. It's a really awesome. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Hey, Steven, I've got a question.
Yes.
So I was wondering, how do you use this type of exercise in your design process? Do you go and find a whole bunch of guys with suits or like ballerinas in a similar pose and do this frequently, or is this just kind of one exercise you like to kind of give us?
No, this is what I'm always doing. I'm always drawing. I'm always finding reference. That's the big thing. And anyone who works in feature animation and television animation and video game will tell you, one of the sometimes the longest thing takes is to find the right reference. So people are always, reference is key. Every single artist does it, from Norman Rockwell to everyone. It's just so vital to get the reference. Now, are you going to get them all in the same pose? No. But what I want to do is start gathering ideas of this person, like say, hey, okay, the description, we want you to design an old man, you know, maybe this guy's from Amsterdam or something. And I think that's what all these guys were from the Netherlands. And just drawing, and he's going to be in a suit, and his, I don't know, his whatever sort of that he is, he's going to the racetrack or whatever it may be. And so then I get that description and they go, okay, well, I know that he's wearing a hat. I know he's wearing a suit. So my job is going to be, and your job is to just start to gather as much reference as possible. Maybe you're finding the reference in movies. Maybe you're finding it on YouTube or something like that. So there's all these different places, but absolutely it's what I'll always do. It would say I got to draw a pilot or I got to draw a ballerina. I don't want to pretend that I know what a ballerina looks like. You know, I have to find that reference, and then I'll start breaking things apart. One thing that comes to mind, like when I was drawing, and I'm thinking about it because I just posted it the other day. I posted on my Instagram a bunch of Skulker designs that I did for Danny Phantom. So when I was doing that, I was grabbing like just reference from, because I knew the sort of character he was, just like 80s rock and roll bands. I was looking at Kiss. I was looking at Twisted Sister. I was looking at all these different things just to try to help me see different shapes and get different ideas. And that's what you do. When I was designing Kim Possible and had to design all the cheerleader outfits and all that, well, I was looking at my high school yearbook. I was looking at cheerleaders. That's what I was just trying to find. So absolutely, it's a major part of this process is to do that. All right. Any other questions?
Steven, I noticed that all of these guys are all facing left to right.
Yeah.
And is that something that you prefer to have maybe like the first time you're studying something so that you can see the differences? Or does it not matter? They can be flipped left to right, right to left, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that doesn't really matter. To me, it's just the inspiration. You know, I go like, you know, it's just even when I'm saying like, look at this guy here, if that was the only picture that I was looking at of this guy, I'd be like, man, I'm starting with almost like my egg shape. I'm starting to, you know, design that. I'm going, I love how sort of like just stoic this guy is through there. And then I just start to, I love how that's sort of like dropping down through there. And then now I got this guy's head and it's just, his neck's just a little bit twisted. His head's just a little bit twisted. Again, it's more about a feeling. And so as I'm looking at this, I'm just blocking in the shape really sort of quick through there. And then I can just start to, you know, decide what this character is going to be, you know, from there. But that's, and see how my hand is just moving, it's scribbling, it's changing. I'm just drawing all these shapes in, and that's all it becomes is pure inspiration. And I'm changing my shapes all the time. I'm not just relying on what I did. What I'm just trying to find is that real feeling. Maybe I'm going to draw a character and now he's just sort of like leaning forward. Look what happens when I just do that. I just drew that body forward like that. And now I'm just getting this whole different feeling and attitude of this character. And I can change this guy around. Maybe I'm going to turn this guy and turn him this way now. I've drawn him enough now, get all these guys, to where now I can just start to make up a whole different character. I understand what's going on, and see, look how I've designed a whole day. It wasn't even a part of these guys. Now I've just made up my whole different character. I know this guy's body's leaning in. That's going to pull the tie down, give him that gravity. And then from here, I can just start to add this guy's legs. Maybe I want long, skinny legs. Maybe I want wider legs. And those are things that I want to think about. And another thing I just want to mention here to you guys too. Look at the guy in the middle up here. I want you to look at his jacket. So as we got his neck is wrapping around. Okay, so we got his body shape. This is sort of like turning in that egg shape through there. All right. We got his jacket, which is wrapping around. Let me just get his, imagine his pelvis right there. We got his legs connected. Okay, so now that jacket is coming down. It's coming down this way. Okay, it's pulling this way. This jacket is coming here. And now we can start to see where it breaks. Look how it's, what's happening is it's sort of like that break, right? There's a little pinch right there where it starts all of a sudden going in that direction. So I'm paying attention to that. But what is that doing? From that corner, it's going all the way behind him. It's wrapping around and coming all the way back over to this side. So that's what I'm looking at. And then now I know that now I can make that all dark inside, and that is completely drawn through. I can erase all this in my design. And now it makes a lot more logical sense. Again, this is wrapping all the way back behind there. We don't see it. So even if we saw his legs right here and his legs were spread apart like that, I'm not going to see that jacket unless this was dropping and coming all the way around here and being pulled all the way through there. Then I would see then I would see part of that jacket coming through the legs. So again, this is why you're always just wrapping around and just drawing through your shapes. All right. So if anyone has any other questions, please feel free just to fire away.
Hey, Stephen.
Yes.
You're drawing digitally for us.
Yes.
Do you find a difference for you in what you're more comfortable with, if staying on paper when you do design versus drawing straight into the computer?
Yeah, you know, I think for me, I was drawing so much before the Cintiq came around on paper. So a lot of my designs were always done that way. But now I'm just always drawing on the Cintiq. Why? Because I can make my fixes a lot easier. I can reduce my opacity. I can do all these things with my design where it just becomes that much easier. I know a lot of people are using iPads, which is great too. So just, again, just do, it's really just do what's comfortable. You know, it's just like, if this feels natural for you, but just know that any studio you wish to work at, they've all gone digital. Everyone's doing digital. So that's why it's important for you to say, I got to get in the digital game. If I'm not drawing digitally right now, you definitely want to start because it's going to help you. All right.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep.
Stephen,
Yes.
so interesting that you were talking about reference. I had an art teacher in college say his son asked him to draw a train, and he like drew a blank because he knows what a train looks like, but he he didn't know how to draw a train, so he had to tell his son, I gotta go find a train so I can draw it for you. I can't just draw it out of thin air.
Yeah.
Have you ever found something that you really struggled to create? Something that you drew and you're just like, this doesn't look right. This doesn't
You
look
know,
right.
I would say usually that case is always when it comes down to a certain animal. You know, that's always the case for me. Or I'm having to draw an animal. Say I got to draw an octopi, or say, you know, what the hell's an octopi? You know, so right, I got to research it, or crocodile versus an alligator, right? So I don't just want to make stuff up, or I want to draw a Dalmatian. Well, if I'm drawing a Dalmatian dog, my again, depending on the dog, the Dalmatian is, his body is just, or a greyhound or something, the body's just a little bit skinnier. The legs are a little bit skinnier, you know, through there on the Dalmatian, as opposed to if I'm drawing a golden retriever or something. Well, for me to make it look more like a golden retriever, maybe those legs are just a little bit stubbier and a little bit bigger, and there's a little bit more hair coming off of that golden retriever through there, and the neck's just a little bit thicker and the tail's a little bit bushier. That's going to start looking more like a golden retriever now. So absolutely, that's where the reference comes in. Don't try to make that stuff up. And another thing is, don't try to, I keep forgetting his name, but don't try to be a oh man, what's his name? I think he's from Korea, Kim Jung-gi, or the artist who can just draw like out of his imagination. You guys know who I'm talking about?
Kim Jung-gi.
Yeah, Kim Jong-un. Like that guy, just genius, right? Just like that. Don't try to be that guy. Well, you can try to be that guy, but don't be upset if you're not doing what that guy can do, right? Because oh my God, I can't just draw out of my head. I'm no good. Don't be like that. It's reality through the repetition. And if you go to enough life drawing and you do enough observation, these are things you're going to be able to recall and understand as you're drawing characters. So you won't need reference. You're not going to need reference to draw some guy running if you've drawn some guy running enough times, right? So through the repetition, you'll start to realize that, you know, I can do these things. But also, you guys will see, and I want make sure you guys check out the gesture videos that I've put together. But part of that is the bow and arrow. So you know that if I understand the bow and arrow in my design, no matter what I do, that's going to start giving me more life. So if I'm going to draw someone running, maybe this guy's running because they're scared. It's for Scooby-Doo or something. You know, they got the Scooby-Doo run like Shaggy, right? Just be me having that bend and that arc in that body. Well, now, do I need reference to draw someone, running? And I'm trying to figure out what Shaggy looks like. But maybe, you know, now I know I've drawn enough people running, or I understand that I can start to get that life and energy in my pose and start to make stuff up and invent stuff because I understand it. Or I'm going to draw someone and I just feel like they're a little bit more hung down and depressed. So here I got my egg shape, but now I got my bow and arrow through there. Now look what happens is I just start, again, I don't need reference just to make up a pose of someone just kind of bending down and just doing something. And notice how I'm drawing the head last. I draw the head last because the head can move in all different directions. All of a sudden, what happens if I put my head here? Look how that changes my character. I haven't even drawn a facial expression on this guy. What happens if I draw my head over here and do something like this now and I grab a little tilt, right? Look at the power of the head tilt and what that can do for your drawing, and why you might even just kind of do it last, because that is the most movable, flexible thing that's going to create all this life. And when you look at all these guys' photos right here, we're looking at this and they all got that front 3/4 view body, right? Their shoulders are a little bit different, but look at the tilt on their head, how different it makes it. Look at this guy, this guy, the third one that I'm pointing at on the second row, how his head is twisted all the way looking this way. Like all of a sudden he's looking at you like he's got like a different sort of feeling and expression to him, as opposed to this guy on the far left there, which his neck is back just a little bit. His head's a little bit more straight, gives a whole different sort of attitude, and the head makes all the difference in the world. What if you make, again, your head just very, you raise it, you know, just really, really high. Look what happens on this if I do this. Check this out. I'm going to draw this guy's head. All right. I got this guy's neck, right? So maybe this guy's wearing a suit or something. He's got his, you know, hat through there. All right. So we got this guy here. Looks like me now. All right, I'm just gonna make it me. All right, so we got silver through there. So say I got something like that, but look what happens if all of a sudden I just take that, even that body and that neck, and I do something like this. And now I throw my shoulder coming from there. And a lot of time on old men, especially when you see the side view, wherever the mouth is usually where you're gonna see the back of the collar. But look what happens now. As I just draw that neck and I draw it right up there and I do something like that. Look how that changes the whole attitude and personality of my character. So that's something just to think about when you're working on your characters too. It's all about the placement. It's all about that variation and that variety through there. All right. So any other questions? Feel free to fire away.
Join SDA for less than $1 a day and drastically improve your skills at silverdrawingacademy.com.